Hello, Da Vinci. Welcome back. This is our wider curriculum lesson for today. Now, I've called it wider curriculum because it's a bit of a mix. It's a bit of a mix between history, a bit of a mix between science, a bit of a mix between everything that we've looked at so far outside our maths and English. So I'd like you to share what you have learned about space this term. You're going to need either your pencil and your paper or your whiteboard pen and your whiteboard. Challenge here. I'd like you to complete this quiz independently. That means no adult help. So nobody at home helping you with the questions. I'm going to read the questions out to you. I'm going to read you the answers and you need to tell me which is the right answer. Okay, it's just a bit of a quiz for a little bit of fun. Okay, so today's lesson is a quiz about what we've learned this term. It's a multiple choice, which means that every question has got 4 answers and you need to write down one that you think is the right answer. There's 10 questions. Question 1. What is the name of the astronomer who lived in Slough and first discovered Uranus? Was it A, Caroline Herschel, B, Christopher Herschel, C, Walter Herschel, or D, William Herschel? Which one do you think is the right answer? What was the name of the astronomer who lived in Slough and first discovered Uranus? Is it A, Caroline Herschel, B, Christopher Herschel, C, Walter Herschel, or D, William Herschel? Which one is the right answer? I'm going to show you the answers as I'm going along. So the first answer to the first question was D, William Herschel. He was the man that was the astronomer who discovered Uranus, and he lived in Slough. Question 2. Why do astronauts need to exercise in space? That's your question. Why do astronauts need to exercise in space? Is it A, so that their muscles don't waste away? Is it B, to keep them busy? Is it C, to make the ISS move? Or is it D, so that they can eat more? Which one do you think it is? Why do they need to exercise in space? A, so their muscles don't waste away. B, to keep busy. C, to make the ISS move. Or D, so that they can eat more. The answer for this question is going to be A, so that their muscles don't waste away, so that they can hold themselves up and they can walk. Let's have a look at the next one. Question number 3. What is the name of the 4th planet from the sun? What is the name of the 4th planet from the sun? And I've even got a picture here to help you with what the solar system looks like. What is the planet 4th from the sun? Is it A, Venus, B, Mars, C, Earth, or D, Mercury? So let's go through this one together. We can see, if I just change the color of my pen, right, will yellow work? I think so. My very excited mother just served up noodles. My very excited mother just served up Nando's, one or the other. So I know that this planet is the first planet to the sun. I know that that one's Mercury. So I know that this is the wrong answer. So cross that one out. I know the second planet from the sun, Venus. So I know that that is the wrong answer because it says the 4th planet, which is this one here. Remember this big thing? That's the sun. That's the star in our solar system, the sun. E, well, this one should look very familiar because that one is Earth, but that's the 3rd planet. So let's get rid of that one, which means the answer, the red planet that's after Earth, is going to be Mars. So the right answer for that question is Mars. Well done if you got that one. Super job. The next one, what does the ISS stand for? Is it the Intergalactic Space Station, the Intergalactic Space Satellite, the International Space Station, or the International Space Satellite? Which one do we think it is? A, B, C, or D? Well, A, Intergalactic Space Station is wrong. B, the Intergalactic Space Satellite is wrong. C, the International Space Station is correct. The answer was C. Who was the first British person to live on the ISS? Was it Helen Sharman? Was it Neil Armstrong? Was it Yuri Gagarin? Or was it Tim Peake? Who was the first British person to live on the ISS? Well, I can tell you right now that Neil Armstrong was not British. He was American. Yuri Gagarin was not British. He was Russian, which means it's either Helen Sharman or Tim Peake. Helen Sharman was the wrong answer. The right answer is Tim Peake. He was the first British person to live on the ISS. Who was the first person to walk on the moon? Was it A, Helen Sharman, B, Neil Armstrong, C, Yuri Gagarin, D, Tim Peake? I hope everyone gets this answer nice and quickly. It is B, Neil Armstrong. He was the first person to walk on the moon in 1969. Who was the first person to go into space? Here's a picture of that person. So is that person Helen Sharman? Is that person Neil Armstrong? Is that person Yuri Gagarin? Is that person Tim Peake? Who was the first person to go into space? Well, that person is not a woman for a start, so that's not going to be Helen Sharman. It's not Neil Armstrong, it is Yuri Gagarin. He was the first person to go into space. Question 8. We've left out Helen Sharman. So for a bonus point, what is she famous for? For a super bonus point, what is Helen Sharman famous for? Well, she was famous for being the first British person to go into space. She was the first British person to go to the Mir space station in 1991, which was before the International Space Station was running, and therefore she was the first British person to go into space. Question 8. Which of these picnic foods could an astronaut eat in space? So one of these, just one, an astronaut can eat in space. The other three an astronaut cannot eat in space. So which one can an astronaut eat in space? Can they eat an apple? Can they eat breadsticks? Can they eat crackers? Can they eat a wrap? And what do we think? Which one can they eat in space? Well, it's not breadsticks because breadsticks crumble just like crackers do. They crumble when you eat them, and there's crumbs going all around the ISS, which is not good. So the only two left is an apple or a wrap. Now, bit of a tricky one, because an apple is fresh fruit, which means you would not have anywhere to store your apple, and therefore your apple would go off. So the right answer is a wrap. However, when you do have fresh fruit, because sometimes they send up food, extra food supplies, and they might have something fresh in your extra food supply. You might get one apple to share between some people, which is sent up in a rocket with some other food supplies, but majority of the time you will have things that are freeze dried, and therefore things like a wrap are something that you can eat all the time in space. What do scientists grow on a petri dish? Do they grow bacteria? Do they grow jelly? Do they grow dust? Or do they grow fingerprints? What do scientists grow on a petri dish? Remember, this picture is a petri dish. So what do they grow on it? Well, the right answer to that one is bacteria. They grow bacteria on a petri dish. And question 10, what do astronauts need to survive in space? Do they need A, food, water, rest, and a spacesuit? Do they need B, food, water, a camera, and toothpaste? Do they need C, oxygen, food, water, and a computer? Or do they need D, oxygen, food, water, and rest? Which one does an astronaut need in space? What does an astronaut need in space? Well, food, water. Well, let's start with red. Food, water. Yes, we need those two. Rest. Yes, we need that. A spacesuit. If you went up to space in a rocket and you couldn't live in the rocket, you had to live outside the rocket, and you had to live outside the rocket in a spacesuit, you'd be able to survive in the spacesuit for maybe a couple of hours. You'd have no way to eat because you can't have food in your spacesuit, and you'd have nothing to drink. So would you survive with food, water, rest, and a spacesuit if you've got nowhere to be? If you're not in a spacecraft in the ISS, then you don't really need a spacesuit. You can get up there without a spacesuit on. You get into the ISS without your spacesuit on, and you live in the ISS. You don't need a spacesuit to be in space, really. Food, water, a camera, and toothpaste. Well, you do need these things, but you don't need these things as much as you need the other answers. So although some of these answers are right, you would need toothpaste to stop your teeth from falling out, and you would need a camera to keep you entertained. They're not quite as good as some of the other questions, which means these are not the right answers. Oxygen, food, water, and a computer. Well, a computer would just keep you entertained. It doesn't say anything about it being a computer for the rocket, so you don't really need a computer. Oxygen, food, water, and rest. This question D, answer D, sorry, is the right answer because it's all the four things that humans need to survive. They need oxygen, which is air. They need food, they need water, and they need rest. And we're assuming that you'd be on the ISS because if you weren't on the ISS and you needed a spacesuit, then you would not survive very long in space at all. And that is all of our questions for today. Let's have a look. I've got a challenge on the next page. If you give me 1 sec, let's see if I can extend my page so that I can click off it. There we go. So, how did you do? How well did you do? Are you known as an astrophile? Now, an astrophile is someone who knows a lot about space. What is your favorite thing that you've learned from space this term? You could share your answers with us on Tapestry. So there's no uploading for this lesson, but you could share your answers with what your favorite thing you've learned this term is on Tapestry. Thanks very much, Da Vinci. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.